Welcome back to my channel. Even though you water your orchid regularly, if its flowers wither and die, the biggest reason for this is the sponge in the middle, which most orchids have this sponge. So, how does this sponge cause the death of orchid and what is the solution? Let's watch it together. Let's take the dying orchid out of its pot and start the root care. At first glance, you can see the roots have completely rotted. My first goal will be the sponge in the middle. Most orchids have this sponge. The purpose of putting the sponge is to absorb the vitamin water given before leaving the place of production and keep it vigorous without giving water for a long time until it comes to the florist and the sale is made. Now let's get this sponge out. As you can see here, mold and fungus have formed already. In a moment we will examine what is harmful in this sponge under a microscope. Now let's cut off the rotten roots and leave the intact ones. Although there doesn't seem to be a very solid root, it stays in my hand when I hold it, without having to cut it. This sponge, which is often ignored, makes the roots look like this. When this sponge is inside the orchid, the flowers that has already been watered before coming to the florist, if it is watered again in the florist, and if there are flowers on it, it gradually causes the flowers to fade. As you take this flower and continue to water it in your home, the sponge starts to mold over time. In fact, it is enough to give a small amount of water to the roots of the orchid. I explained in the irrigation technique according to the root color in my channel. Even if there is a sponge in it, if a small amount of watering is done, there will be no problem. What you need to do is watch the video about orchid watering, which I will add the explanation, and do the watering in this way. Over time, when the flowers begin to fall out, you remove the sponge while taking care of the root. There are no roots left in our orchid except air roots. We will make it cling to life again with these air roots. Cut off the dry ones and tear off these yellowed leaf bottoms. New roots will come out from under these leaf bottoms. Our root cleaning is done. It's not a problem that the leaves are wrinkled like this. At least they are not yellow and they can absorb phosphorus. Pour 2 tablespoons of liquid Arabic soap into about a liter of warm water and let it melt. With this mixture, we will disinfect the orchid roots and pots. Dip the orchid roots into this mixture, making sure that the leaves do not come into contact with water. After waiting for about 2 minutes, rinse with clean water. You will understand the roots absorb water because they are dark green. Over time, these air roots will replace the roots that have rotted in the orchid soil. Disinfect and rinse the orchid pot with this water. Fill in the new orchid soil up to half of the orchid pot that you have cleaned. Place your orchid in a pot so that the 1 or 2 air roots remaining at the top remain outside. The airy roots that will stay outside will benefit from the moisture in the air, while those inside will benefit from the moisture in the orchid soil. The orchid became like this because the pests in the sponge in the middle absorbed the sap of the orchid. In a moment, when I show you these pests under a microscope, you will see how disgusting the sponge is. After we have completely disinfected it, as I showed in my previous video, when we apply the calcium and potassium fertilizer that we have prepared with potato peels to the leaves and roots, new leaf formation will begin over time, and these shriveled leaves will die. In this way, we will have renewed our orchid. This will take some time. If you do this process after shedding the flowers in the natural process, that is when there are alive leaves, the recovery will be faster. Put your orchid in a place with light and water it with potato fertilizer every 15 days. After this stage, we will wait for it to bloom out its new roots and leaves. And these are our other orchids. They have started to bloom out their flowers. I mentioned the production of phosphorus fertilizer that supports their flowers in my previous videos. You can access these videos from my channel and from the links I will add to the explanation. Now let's see the pests inside this sponge. The sponge we removed from the orchid is here. Let's take a closer look at this pest that we can see clearly with our eyes and see for yourself how important it is to remove this sponge. Share this video so that everyone can see it and comment on it. At least write a feedback such as a simple thank you or a suggestion. If you liked the video, please remember to click on the likes. If you have just come to my channel, subscribe and activate the bell to support my channel. See you in my next videos.